Hi folks, I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for joining me. I want to give a shout out to those of you that have bought me cups of coffee recently. God bless you. Thank you so much. Also, I got a PayPal donation. Wow, thank you. Many blessings to you. There in Chicago, they are having a tuberculosis outbreak in some of the shelters. They're also confirming that there's been 55 cases of measles. Last month, I believe it was a 5-year-old boy that died from measles, and there's been an outbreak also of monkeypox. The monkeypox has tripled since the beginning of this year. The tuberculosis cases are at multiple migrant shelters, and they are saying that 55 cases have been confirmed in Chicago, most of them being reported from the Filson Migrant Shelter, and that is a shelter on Halsted Street. The CDPH is aware of the number of tuberculosis cases among new arrivals at a few of the shelters. The health agency said they're not saying how many have tuberculosis, they're not saying which shelters, though I suspect at least one of the shelters is Pilsen. They're saying that 10 to 20% of Central and South American residents have a latent tuberculosis infection, which means it's asymptomatic, non-transferable to others. So I was wondering, what do you think? If 10 to 20% of those in the migrant shelters have the latent form of tuberculosis, how many of them have it where it can be passed? Tuberculosis, they say, is rarely seen in Chicago. Typically, for 1 year, they'll see between 100 to 150 cases. Raymond Lopez, a Chicago alderman, I think he's running for senator or something like that, he said Thursday that this outbreak could have been prevented had the migrants been required to follow the same vaccination rules as U.S. citizens. Evidently, they're getting a free pass. The children can go to school without the vaccination requirements that is required for U.S. citizen children. This is a crisis we could have avoided, just like the measles, if we had simply instituted the American standard of vaccines upon those migrants being shipped to the city of Chicago, Lopez said. Vaccination requirements are weighed for migrant asylum seeker children, and that is putting the people and families and communities at risk, Lopez continued. Dr. Azra, associate professor of medicine at the University of Chicago, said that the tuberculosis vaccine is not really effective. There is no effective vaccine against tuberculosis. These outbreaks happen in close quarters, people who are living close to one another. The people who are at most risk of tuberculosis are the other migrants living in the shelters, said Hazra, who added that measles, however, is preventable through vaccinations. I recently did a report showing you how tuberculosis here in this country has risen 16% in the last year. Now for Mpox, now that has really grown. Last year there was fewer than 300 cases, where so far this year for the monkeypox there's been 570 cases. That's doubled in numbers, and this is only April. Mpox is what they call it now, but it used to be called monkeypox. It is spread through intimate contact with a person with monkeypox or through contact with contaminated materials. One of the most common signs of infection is a rash on the hands, feet, chest, face, mouth, or near the genitals. It can also mirror symptoms of respiratory illnesses such as fever, chills, exhaustion, and headache. The national numbers for monkeypox last year was 287. So far this year, it is 511. New York City is dealing with over 100 cases so far this year, whereas last year they only had 30. While historically monkeypox is found in Central and West Africa, cases began popping up in the U.S. in May of 2022. Since then, over 32,000 cases have been reported, as well as 58 deaths here in the U.S., and that's according to the CDC. So what are your thoughts? Put your comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for your donations to support my work. As always, be safe, be prepared, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.